Chip in the Woodlands, what you got?
Hey, Mike, how you doing today?
I'm good.
Long-time listener, first-time caller.
Okay, well, all right.
Hey, quick question. You know, one of the things, not question, but about the African-American spelling bee, I was thinking that maybe, you know, this is a way to target African-Americans to participate in the spelling bee. I don't know when African-Americans, I'm sure African-Americans could not participate when the spelling bee first started 85 years ago.
Oh, Lord.
No, I'm just saying, so the legacy of it, you know, if they are not reaching out to participate at schools or, you know, have advisors.
Well, let's try this, Chip. They figured out how to get into basketball, football, and baseball, right?
Well, yeah.
Okay. Just not how to couldn't figure out how to get into spelling bees.
Well, I mean, yeah.
Because you know what? Guess what, Chip? They didn't have Indian kids getting into spelling bees 85 years ago either, or Chinese kids, and they seem to be dominating now.
Yeah, but listen, let's look at what the majority of the kids. If you go into the inner cities of a lot of these places where maybe your higher yield African American is going to be, how many spelling bee organizations do they have? Has anybody ever outreached to put in there? Just like lacrosse, you think Jim Brown's the best lacrosse player that ever came out of African American community? No, it's just that it's not presented. And so, because it's not presented, then a lot of kids don't participate.
Well,
so
if it's not presented, whose fault is that?
And that's why they probably started this African-American spelling bee to say, hey, listen,
Here's my question. Why do you need to create a bee to make sure a black kid wins? Why not just have them participate in the bee that's already established? Heck, they made movies about this bee. Why do we have to create a whole new one? There's all this extra work. Because underlying mindset is we're going to separate off into our own little group because we can't compete in those ways. Don't you worry. You're not as good. You're not as smart. That's what you're telling the kids.
Mike, we have always been a separated class. The Houston Country Club to this day still doesn't have African-American or Jewish friends. We have always been a separate. It's a separate class. I don't know why you don't believe it. This is a separate class.
I believe it, Chip, but I'll tell you this. I feel sad. And I've come to the conclusion that I can talk about it, but I can't fix it. There are people who choose to enslave themselves. They choose to refer to slavery and some level of civil rights violations for every excuse. I see them at the grocery store in front of me. I see people with their Lone Star card and 8 kids and their flip-flops. They've spent $35 on their toenails. They got 8 shade of toenail going. And they have loaded up with the most fattening foods they can find, and they are as big as a house, screaming at their kids, beating the kids. No level of parental involvement in those kids. Father is not to be found. May not be the same father for all 8. Chances are it's not. Pulling out that Lone Star card. But if you come up to the line at exactly the same time she does, you better let her go. Because I tell you one thing, she's not going to wait on you. You know, she knows her rights. It's ridiculous. We've got a whole nation hampered by some percentage of absolute idiots. Absolute idiots. This is idiot behavior. I wish the country were all black. Then we could just say, you know what? You are an idiot. And people could go, whoa, I don't know. Then we could point to behaviors, okay? Because idiotic behavior is idiotic behavior. We can't get to cultural traits, bad behaviors, bad decisions, bad role models, bad messages, poverty pimp. We can't get to all that because the conversation has been shut down. You're not allowed to speak about race if you're not black. And if you are black, you're not allowed to speak about race unless you're stupid. If you're educated, well-to-do, financially successful, professionally successful, then you're an Uncle Tom. So what we have is a race to the bottom. We pull out the dumbest people in society. We put them in leadership positions in the Democratic Party. The cameras all rush to them. They can't conjugate their verbs. They have absolutely no sense about anything, no professional involvement, criminal records a mile long, and they proceed to tell us how things ought to be in this country. Charlie Rangel, Maxine Waters, Sheila Jackson Lee, Eddie Bernice Johnson, Alcee Hastings, Alcee Hastings is now being charged with harassing young women in his office. Alcee Hastings, who was impeached as a judge for taking bribes. He was impeached as a judge for taking bribes. He had to step down from the bench, and he still got elected to Congress. Marion Barry, one of the most corrupt public officials in American history, goes to jail, has a prostitute and crack in his room when the cops bust into his hourly rate motel, gets out of jail and gets reelected. Who's he speaking for? No, I'm not going to sit around and watch my country go to hell in a handbasket while people tell me about slavery. This is insane. It's ridiculous. It's got to stop.